Thank you all for joining us today. It's so nice to see so many friendly faces. I'd also like to introduce my colleague, Lula Ficadu. She is the Senior Manager of CAI's Government and Public Affairs team. I'm sure you've received a few emails from her. She helps support our chapter legislative efforts as well as our LAC nomination process. So a number of the items I referenced today, you hear from Lula from throughout the year on as well. I want to spend the next, I don't know, however long this takes, but a few minutes going over some new resources CAI's advocacy team has for our CAI memberships use. This includes our chapters. While these resources are focused on CAI's Legislative Action Committee use, they're resources everyone can be utilizing throughout the entire year. They're huge member benefits. These should be included in publications and promotional items throughout the entire year. So if you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand, put any questions in the chat as well. We can make this as conversational as we want to over the next 60 minutes. I want to start with just giving a high-level overview of CAI's government affairs structure. It's a huge puzzle, our legislative efforts throughout the whole year. Our national office has our government and public affairs team. We liaise with CAI's National Government and Public Affairs Committee. This committee is comprised of different membership types from across the country, attorneys, homeowner leaders, board members, different types of business professionals as well. They review public policies throughout the entire year that impact the community association housing model, and they put together public policies to help guide our legislative action committees when they review legislation throughout the entire year. The committee is a critical piece of our legislative and advocacy efforts. You likely hear updates from them throughout the year. Our legislative action committees work with this committee as well. Outside of that, we have our 36 legislative action committees. Our LACs every year advocate and lobby on behalf of CAI and the Community Association Housing Model with their state legislatures. Some state LACs even work on the local side as well and the regulatory side, ensuring that the best legislation and public policies possible are implemented within their state for their industry. In hand with our state level work, we also have a federal legislative action committee. This committee is comprised of CAI members from across the country. They evaluate congressional legislation that's introduced throughout the year, as well as federal regulatory efforts too that impact the community association housing model. They report to the Government and Public Affairs Committee any efforts they're working on and have these efforts approved through that committee as well. So these are all ongoing discussions throughout the entire year. Our chapters play a critical role in this puzzle as well. As many of you know, every 2 years, we go through our Legislative Action Committee nomination cycle. LAC members serve on 2-year terms. They reapply every 2 years to remain on their legislative action committees. There are 2 types of LAC membership classes: our chapter delegates and our at-large delegates. The chapter delegates play a huge role in each year chapters. These individuals are appointed by their chapter boards to serve on their legislative action committees. They serve as the liaison between the LAC and the chapter. They should be updating both ends on efforts that are going on the LAC and on the chapter as well. So they are the voice of the chapter on the LAC and the voice of the LAC on the chapter as well. Finally, another critical piece, many of our legislative action committees have paid for lobbyists who are the face of CAI's legislative action committees within their state legislature. They're the ones on the ground meeting with legislators, their staff throughout the entire year, ensuring that the best public policies possible are being moved forward throughout the legislative session cycles. So this is just a high level overview of all the pieces of the puzzle that we're constantly working with CAI's legislative efforts. Kelly, do you want to jump to the next slide? Thank you. So within our legislative action committees, we have a formal structure, and then from this formal structure, each of our state LACs mold their committees to what their needs are as well. Our LACs have a LAC chair, a vice chair, a treasurer, and a secretary. These are all appointed positions that go through our office when we're doing our LAC nomination cycle. As mentioned earlier, we have our LAC delegates, either chapter or at-large delegates. And then based on the LAC, the Legislative Action Committee can decide what internal committees each Legislative Action Committee holds. These committees for some states take the following roles we have listed on this slide right here. Sometimes there's a policy chair, committee, task force, where 2 to 5 members of the LAC focus their efforts each year on reviewing legislation, reviewing CAI's public policies to make sure we're moving forward with the right public policies and advocating appropriately. Some LACs also have a fundraising committee or a fundraising chair. This individual or team focuses on fundraising throughout the entire year to ensure that the CAI Legislative Action Committee lobbyist is paid for throughout the year. Those lobbyists are private individuals with an annual contract with these LACs. Some LACs also have a communications chair or committee. These individuals focus on drafting updates to CAI membership within their state, writing pre-session communications, during session communications, updating the membership within their state, what bills they're seeing, what efforts they're seeing, and just how much work the LAC is doing that year to really convey to our membership what efforts are going on. A lot of times these efforts are behind the scenes, they're phone calls, they're meetings that just might not get the publicity that other events do throughout the year. These communications individuals on the LACs also help draft calls to action, email campaigns throughout the year. We can get into that in a little bit if there's a big issue going on that they want to engage membership, a broader group of membership through. And then they also help draft an end of session report, a summary of what happened during that legislative session, and informing membership of exactly what was accomplished and just how much hard work these volunteers were doing throughout the entire year. Sometimes they even take it a step further, draft and publish articles for chapter publications, newsletters, any capacity. It's critical that these communications are happening throughout the year. In a second, I'll show you some resources that our team has for your use, both the LACs and the chapters, when it comes to making sure these communications are being disseminated. Finally, some legislative action committees also have a grassroots committee or a day at the Capitol committee, making sure that their LAC is properly engaging legislators throughout the year, whether it is email blasts to legislators drafting these, informing legislators of the community association housing model, again, pushing for support or opposition of a particular bill. And then some legislative action committees do hold a day at their state capitol, invite CAI's membership within their state, schedule meetings with key legislators, and just really promote the housing model on the ground when appropriate, if they're able to get in-person meetings. Sometimes our legislative action committees, even over this last year, not being able to get into state capitals, have held virtual advocacy days as well. And these committees and chairs on these LACs play a critical role in ensuring this type of engagements occurring throughout each year. Kelly, if you want to jump to the next slide. And again, just summarizing what we've been over, our legislative action committees are governed by the LAC operational guidelines. You see these every 2 years when the LAC nomination process is happening. These guidelines break down the nomination process and what type of roles the different members of LACs have and what a legislative action committee should be doing throughout the entire year. Again, the LAC partners with our national office as well. Each LAC has a liaison, either myself or Dawn Bauman, who works with them to ensure proper public policies are being promoted within each state's legislature. And then the other piece is their chapter on the ground, whether they have one chapter or multiple chapters within their state. It's critical that they're engaging the chapters, the CEDs, and chapter presidents throughout the year to make sure that the Legislative Action Committee's efforts are being promoted and communicated to the full membership. Again, our LACs are guided by our public policies. CAI's webpage has over 50 public policies of issues impacting our industry that we tend to see in legislation. throughout the year. Those really just help guide our legislative action committees to promote the best public policy possible. Every year, we also have our annual priorities when it comes to what issues we're anticipating within the state. You may have all received an email over the last 2 weeks from Dawn Bauman asking to complete a survey. Right now, we're gathering this data, and in the next week or so, we will be releasing our 2022 advocacy priorities. But these just help guide our LACs and hopefully anticipate what issues they might be seeing in their state so they can properly prepare for those bills to be introduced. Again, fulfilling a promise to CAI members that they will elevate and promote the best public policies possible for the industry. And in hand with that, you're serving the community association housing model. Again, if anyone has any questions, please let me know. We have a ton of resources for our legislative action committees and our chapters to use throughout the year to promote our advocacy efforts, your state LAC's advocacy efforts, your chapter's efforts as well. As I mentioned, we have more than 50 public policies. They're on issues many of you see throughout the year, whether it's through article publication topics, presentations at your chapter events. These public policies range from electric vehicle charging stations and how they should be regulated throughout community associations, all the way to our newest public policy, which is on building inspections and maintenance, and how high-rise buildings should be focusing on proper maintenance regulatory systems throughout the year. So please take a look at these public policies. They're great to use in publications, pitch them at the bottom of any newsletters that you want. There's a plethora of great information in these public policies that you are free to use throughout the entire year. This is just a summary. We have legislative tracking resources for your use. I'll jump into that in a second. We have legislative reporting that you can use through our office. We have a range of research, white papers, talking points on all of these issues. Most of this information's on our website. If you ever can't find anything, please let me or any of our team members know. We can get you these types of resources for your use, your chapter's use, and the Legislative Action Committee's use. We have a call to action email center, which I'll spotlight in a moment. We collect legislator relationships throughout the year. We actually launched our annual legislator connection survey on Tuesday. This is a survey we send to all CAI members, asking them who they know in their state legislators, at their mayor's office, at the local level, even in Congress. It's incredible how many relationships our CAI membership base does have, and we need to know these relationships to utilize them as we advocate throughout the year. So if you haven't seen the email from our office on Tuesday asking for this survey to be completed, please let me know. We can send it to you. This is also a great CAI membership resource if you want to post it on any social media or put a link to this survey in any email campaigns. Please do, because the more people who have this information in their hands, the more data we're able to gather as well, and the more connections we're able to make for the industry. We have a new ambassador program, which I'll jump into in a bit. We also have a plethora of data and statistics through the Foundation for Community Association Research. It's all on that website. We can send a link around later, but we encourage you to use these statistics throughout the year and in any publications as well. So this is CAI's newest resource, which I encourage you to put on any of your web pages that you find fit, in any communications, linked to our new public policy map. This new legislative tracking systems, much more innovative than our past one. Every few years, our team looks at new legislative tracking options that are offered, and the most innovative and captivating ways. This map is extremely interactive. You can select your state. Lula just put the link into the chat. When you open up the map, you can go to your state, let's say in Texas, click on it. You can see how many bills we're tracking in Texas at this time. On the right side of the page, it does break down the bills by issue area. These issues are for the most part broken down into categories that correlate with our public policy topics as well. Thank you, Kelly. This map's extremely interactive, which is great. It is organized by last action date, which means the bill that's been either heard or moved on most recently will be at the top. So you can see which bills are getting traction within your state. Kelly, if you click one of the dark arrows all the way at the end of a bill list, it'll pull up additional information on this bill. You can see the bill timelines, the topics, how we've issued and labeled each bill, last action date, any sponsors on the bill. And it's also great, they have links to the state legislature's page, and it'll pull up the bill language for you, so you don't have to go search for it anywhere else. So I encourage you to link this map on any of your chapter web pages, include it in any emails, and really push people to this page. It's a huge membership resource that we offer and a huge member benefit as well. We're doing all of this tracking for our members and they don't have to do any of the work, which is great. Our legislative action committees use this resource throughout the year, but it's important that all of our members know that we have this to offer. Again, if anyone has any questions ever about this map, please let me know. I'm happy to meet with you and go through it as well. It is a brand new resource, so it takes some getting used to. Kelly, if you want to jump to the next slide. In hand with our new map, we're going to have brand new legislative tracking email reports. These will be launched at the end of this month and at the beginning of January. Anyone on a legislative action committee, a CED, and a chapter president will be added to these email reports in each state, and it will send you an email if there's movement on any bills in your state. It also breaks down the number of bills per label issue we're tracking. It's a really great resource. If anyone wants to be added to these email reports who are not on a legislative action committee, that's great too. We can add them if they send us an email. So stay tuned. You should start getting these by the end of this year. They're being set up still. So we're really excited about this resource. In hand with our new legislative tracking system, we have a new Take Action email campaign system. While it's mainly our legislative action committees who use this email campaign system, it's critical that our chapter CEDs and chapter presidents are involved in this process too. We launch these email campaigns if there's a critical bill in any state that's about to be heard by a committee, a vote's about to be taken place. We're able to pre-draft all of this language for legislative action committees. It will then be sent to CAI's members within the state. They can then take this email campaign and with one click of a button, ask their legislators to either support or oppose a bill that CAI's Legislative Action Committee is advocating on behalf of. We see great engagement on these email campaigns. Right now, New Jersey has an email campaign going asking for support on a bill that they are currently advocating for. Last night alone, we had over 400 members send an email to their legislators, which is just great. So we do have this Take Action Center. Any pending email campaigns we have, there should be a tile on this webpage. So I encourage you, again, to put this on any CAI chapter websites that you might find appropriate, but it gives our members a taste of what's going on around the country and what efforts our legislative action committees are really pushing forward. Again, another great member resource. I would promote this throughout the year. Many of our LACs, when they have an email campaign going, are typically in communication with the CED, and the CED is able to send an email with this information out to anyone they find appropriate. Our in-house system has all of our members' email addresses, but it's also important that people see these types of ask campaigns through different platforms as well and through different voices, just to really make sure that our engagement rates are meaningful and impactful with legislators in their state. Kelly, if you want to jump to the next slide, it goes in hand with the email campaigns. If you're not active on your email, we do have an app attached to our new Take Action Center, which is great. You can download it and you search for CAI. Once you download the app is called Voter Voice. It's in any app store on any smartphone. This way you won't get emails with any of these take action campaigns. You'll simply get a push notification on your cell phone. You can open it up, hit click, and the work is done for you. An email will go out to your legislator in this email campaign. So it's just another option for you outside of our email campaign system. So I want to make sure you guys know this. We have some one-pagers on how to use this app. If you ever want to promote this as a CAI resource at any chapter events, please let us know. We can get you these one-pagers. You can print them out and hand them out at any chapter events too. So it's just another great membership resource that we encourage you to promote as we're promoting it to our legislative action committees as well.
And we'll make sure that that's in Media Valet as well, so you guys have access to that within that system.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point, Kelly. Does anyone have any questions about the new legislative tracking or the Take Action Center? We have a few other resources too to promote. So this is CAI's latest advocacy effort. We at the annual conference in Las Vegas this year did a soft launch of this program. About a month ago, we did a hard launch of this program. It's called CAI's Ambassador Program. These ambassadors are to help support our legislative action committees. A legislative action committee member can be a CAI ambassador. These ambassadors have a much broader role when it comes to advocating for CAI. They're used to recruit, organize, motivate other advocates within their state. If an issue arises, we need more presence than just our legislative action committee at, let's say, a solar panel bill's introduced in a committee. It looks like it's moving forward. We can not only make sure legislative action committee members there to testify, we can reach out to any ambassadors in that state as well to connect with their legislators or encourage other people to maybe attend a hearing. They're, again, there to help support our legislative action committees. We have the ambassadors broken down into narrow roles, and there are 5 different roles that we've broken this program down into at this point. One are homeowner leaders, one are manager ambassadors, management company ambassadors, real estate agent, broker ambassadors within the industry, and then district ambassadors who focus on a smaller township within their state, any issue that may arise there. With our hard launch last month of this program, we're now at almost 200 CAI advocacy ambassadors, which is amazing. We already have asked them this month to participate in CAI's 2022 legislative priority survey. The majority have already participated. It's just another aspect of our membership base who are engaging when it comes to our advocacy issues. I encourage you to promote the Advocacy Ambassador Program in any publications, weekly emails, newsletters, at any events too. It's another great resource and group of people that our CAI membership and members are now able to connect with, which they may not have been before. I know for some of our members, joining a legislative action committee is a little intimidating, and this is a really good way to begin to get involved with CAI's advocacy efforts as you're working your way up to potentially being a legislative action committee member. So we have information on this. If you have any questions, please let me know. We have a few articles on this program I can share with you if you want to share it with any of your members in your chapter. I know Lula dropped a link to the survey to sign up to be an ambassador within the chat too. We have a number of different ways to get involved. So please let me know if you have any questions. Another critical piece of CAI's advocacy efforts are the lax fundraising efforts. As I mentioned earlier, most of our legislative action committees have a paid for lobbyist who are critical to making sure that our legislative efforts are successful within each state legislature. Unfortunately, most of these lobbyists are expensive and they are all paid for with money that LACs have fundraised, as well as the chapters too. Our office has a number of resources that legislative action committees and chapters can use or consider when it comes to these fundraising efforts. We have curated these 5 reasons why someone should contribute to their legislative action committee. We can work with your chapter or your LAC to change the verbiage in these documents to pinpoint issues you're seeing in your state. A number of legislative action committees have a $1 a door or more campaign, which they promote throughout the year. And this is where legislative action committee members go to different communities throughout the state. Managers might go to communities they manage. Attorneys can go to communities they have as clients, asking for $1 per door in their community to donate to legislative efforts. We find these handouts extremely impactful, being able just to say in bite-sized pieces the accomplishments a legislative action committee has had that year and why it is so important to donate to ensure that we see the same successes in the next year as well. So we have these resources for you. If your legislative action committee currently doesn't have a $1 a door campaign, we can certainly get you some starting resources as well to promote this effort within your state. We're happy to have any discussions with you as well. There's a number of different ways to fundraise. I know some LACs throughout the year are a part of the golf tournaments. They have raffles throughout the year. So it's not just the $1 a door campaign, but this is a critical piece of the fundraising puzzle in many states. And we see some great success in certain states when it comes to this $1 a door campaign. Some states, as you can see on the screen, have even elevated this campaign from $1 a door to $2 a door, and it does double the donations that they're seeing from communities. So if you have any questions or want more information on these campaigns, please reach out to our team. We're happy to get you running on these items. Next, thanks, Kelly. Many of these resources you've all seen over the years. We have our evergreen CAI advocacy resources, our priorities, which we launch every year, the Community Association Foundation's research that we have every year, statistical guides, stat reviews, industry statistics. I'm sure many of you have seen, and if you haven't, please let me know because I will get them to you. Our state facts and figures. These one-pagers break down how many community associations are in your state, how many residents live in these community associations. They're great resources to give to legislators, really to show them how much their constituency base lives in our communities throughout the country. And these homeowners directly correlate back to votes. So it's important for them to listen to CAI's voice when we come in and meet with people. We have our advocacy guides, our toolkits. We have 2 landing pages on our website as well. One is advocacy resources for members. I love that landing page. When I have a new member calling me, asking what our advocacy resources look like, I immediately send them to this page. It's a great starting point for people to begin to navigate the advocacy efforts CAI works on and what resources we have for them to use. We also have a advocacy resources for legislators landing page as well. If you ever get a phone call from a legislator with a question, I encourage you to share that page with them too. Again, it's a great starting point to really give them a balanced initial look into our industry and some really meaningful resources that we have for their use. So again, just high level, our catch-all resources we have all the time. We try to link these at the end of any publication we put out on advocacy issues. So please feel free to link any of these resources and anything you promote throughout the year. Yep, next slide. Thanks, Kelly. Again, stay in touch with us. We have a number of channels you can reach out to us through. We have a Twitter we're very active on. We're constantly tweeting any new resources we have, any updates we're seeing within states. So please follow at CAI Advocacy if you're not already. Email us. I'm sure many of you have my email, Dawn's email, Lula's email, but if you don't, you can send an email to government@cai.org. We're checking this email account daily as well. And then another great actually resource for your use as well is CAI's advocacy blog. We publish at least 1 blog post a week, we encourage you, to subscribe, so you're getting these emails weekly, but to take these articles and put them in any email newsletter you have, any other publication. You can take each of these articles weekly to use to promote to your members as well, or at any chapter event on hot topics we're seeing in the legislative and regulatory realm. Each week, we're promoting the most up-to-date data we have on advocacy efforts going on across the country. As you can tell, just today, Dawn had an article published on trends we're expecting to see in community manager licensing in 2022. It breaks down all of the bills we saw pass or fail in 2021 on manager licensing, and it gives our predictions for what we're expecting to see in states across the country in 2022 when it comes to manager licensing. So again, if you're not already subscribed to this, please subscribe and feel free to promote these articles in any publication you see fit. I try to connect with Emily about the chapter midweeks to post this in, but you guys can use it as well. I want to make sure everyone sees this. And then I just wanted to flag for everyone a few key web pages to bookmark for your own use. Most of these links are items we touched on during this presentation. That is it at this time. Does anyone have any questions? I know this is a lot of information, but we're here to help, and we have a number of advocacy resources for the chapters to use throughout the entire year, and I encourage you to do so.
Phoebe, that was a great presentation, and I have to say I hadn't looked at that tracking map yet, and that is fantastic. I don't know, I was like just writing down a lot of notes, particularly for our homeowner leaders who are very interested in advocacy. It always comes up as one of the top 3 why they're members, and that would be such an easy shout out to our members about that. And also the voter voice app, I was aware of that. I hadn't really looked at it that much, but that is great for perhaps some of our other demographics that don't want to go to a website. They want everything right here. You know, I don't know if you can see, I have my phone up, but so that is really nice that we have that mobile app. So good job on both of those things. Good job on everything. But those two, I really like that map. I actually might play around with it a little bit.
Yeah, the maps, I'm biased. I'm a nerd when it comes to these things. I have fun checking that map daily, but Dawn and I laugh saying we should be telling our members they can be their own lobbyists, checking in every day and seeing what bills are moving.
Exactly.
Phoebe,
any other questions? Yeah. Hi, Leslie.
Hey, the image the slide that you looked at right before the key web pages to bookmark.
Mm-hmm. The advocacy.
I don't know. I heard it and I thought, wait a minute, I thought I'd been catching everything, but could you check back and see what that was? Make sure. I just want to make sure.
I think it was the blog.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought there was something in between. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I use that blog a lot. That is really helpful because it's spoken with a voice of a human, which is of course what blogs are supposed to be for. So I really do use that a lot. In fact, the fall issue of our magazine, I just labeled it the advocacy issue, and everything in there was all about advocacy. And so we had just come back from DC, where you made this presentation in a different form to the CEDs. So that was helpful to be able to put that in there. And as you can see, that was the fall issue. So I was a little bit behind because we were in DC in late October.
No, that's great. I'm glad you guys are using it. Again, I truly encourage everyone, take this, repurpose it and use it. We want this information out there and as many eyes on it in the industry as possible.
A question for the CEDs and the presidents and president-elects that we have online. How are you using advocacy resources within your chapter? How are you repurposing the content or communicating out to your members what's happening?
Could I make a comment on that, Kelly? A comment and question? I don't think my LAC members really appreciate what y'all are doing for them. And I don't know, I see there's a lot of CEDs on this call, but really it's the LAC members that need to be hearing about all this great stuff. So I mean, you can't make people attend an event. I don't know if they were all invited to this or what, but I think it'd be great. And I don't know how that gets pushed to them.
Yeah, so that's a great point, Leslie. We just, in mid-November, I suppose, we do an annual LAC chair and vice chair training. We obviously invite each legislative committee's chair and vice chair. About half of them attend every year. We have new chairs throughout the years. We have some tenured chairs though too who know these things. I mentioned CAI's National Government and Public Affairs Committee. That committee meets monthly. However, quarterly, we open up that meeting to all legislative action committees. And I believe the CEDs are on those emails to participate in these government and public affairs committee meetings. And at the end of each of those quarterly meetings, we have a legislative action committee exchange where we just encourage anyone on the call to discuss what issues they're seeing in their state. You'd be amazed how many of our legislative action committees just don't realize issues they're grappling with. Other states are grappling with them too, and they've seen failures and they've seen successes and what an asset they are to each other. So we do invite them to these things. Again, not everyone always participates, but we certainly try our best to engage all legislative action committees throughout the year on these items. Either Dawn or myself should be on every LAC call to promoting these items as relevant within efforts they're working on.
You certainly are for us. I just wonder if it wouldn't be helpful when you're not seeing participation. I know that, I mean, I usually try to go on those quarterly calls and I'm usually the only person from my entire state there. And there, of course, our LACs are a subcommittee of national. And if you can kind of call them out and say, we noticed that nobody from your LAC has been on these. I mean, I think they need to be called out because just sending them emails and waiting for them to respond is not happening. And I feel like y'all are up there really, really working hard and trying to move the needle in a lot of ways. And it's just not well understood, at least here.
Yeah, it's a constant goal, that's for sure.
Well, thank you for everything you're doing.
Of course. Thank you guys. You guys are a critical piece to this entire process too. We couldn't do it without our chapter executive directors.
I have a quick question. So you said that a couple of the chapters are having a lot of success with the Buck-a-Door campaign. Can you let us know what those chapters are and potentially what they're doing to promote it?
Yeah, I guess to dig in a little deeper on that, the chapters, Virginia's my star legislative action committee when it comes to a dollar a door campaign. A number of others are great. I just use them as an example because I see them often in proximity. They have one or two people spearheading this effort and they focus on it all year. They connect with a list of communities that the LAC provides. I mean, the whole LAC does participate, but it's they're making phone calls saying this is important. We've done this year and we need your engagement. As I'm sure you guys can guess, Leslie just kind of touched on this. Emails don't have, you just don't see delivery from emails. It's picking up the phone and making those phone calls. Virginia's lucky. They've had a reoccurring LAC member doing this for a few years. So she's picked up traction. People know when she's calling, what she's calling for. So they see success and they've seen these fundraising numbers grow over the years because of these people's dedication. So it is something we encourage, just kind of that champion on a legislative action committee to lead and then ask for support along the way.
And is Virginia a single chapter or is it a regional?
They have 3 chapters within their state. So again, the individual on the LAC who spearheads the fundraising has the help of the chapter delegates too.
Okay. That's good to know. Has anyone ever, I'm sorry, this might be a little divergent, but has anyone ever partnered with the attorneys to try to get the Buck-a-Door thing rolling, like with the associations that they work with? Like, because we've tried it with the managers and sometimes that works, but we have a lot of manager turnover in California.
We actually did just have that a concerted effort by our LAC to reach out to the attorneys and it was spectacularly not successful.
Great.
I mean, I got calls literally.
That was my next idea, Leslie.
I literally got calls from attorneys saying, what? They think they're going to come to us for money?
Oh, no, not for money, but because an attorney doesn't shift as much typically. Like, and when an association has an attorney, unless they have like a falling out, like they usually always have that association versus like a manager will like move around. So if the attorney pitches, I know that they don't do the budget, but if we could get them to pitch it for us, especially since we have so many attorneys on our LACs, at least in California.
So Rachel, I can spotlight the Pennsylvania LAC looks at all of their members. So attorneys, managers, they put a list together every year of people they pledge to solicit, I suppose. And in that like October, November window at any of their attorneys annual meetings, managers annual meetings, they have their list of people who they ask for donations for. So whether it's the attorney in these annual meetings pitching the dollar a door campaign or the manager, in Pennsylvania, the attorneys are very much so a part of their successful dollar a door campaign conversation.
Hey Phoebe, this is Sharon.
Hi Sharon.
I just don't have my video up. Rachel, what we did in 2021, which was one of our legislative sessions, is we contacted one of our attorneys that's very involved and said, hey, let's throw it out there and let's do a challenge. So they were willing to donate, $5,000, $2,000, whatever. And then they challenged the next person that is also competitively in the field. And it just took off and we got wonderful results from that. And then we started tagging management companies and we started tagging managers and then we started tagging boards and HOAs. And it just kind of kept snowballing. And we really needed help because our lobbyist is our biggest expense. And we were going into a legislative session and we didn't have money to pay for him. So, I was out there begging and borrowing and I tapped Phoebe so many times in 2021. I'm like, Phoebe, send me something. I need something. And National's wonderful. I love Phoebe. Love Dawn. Love you all. Anyway, and you're definitely going to help me out with my 2022 year as president. But anyway, it just took off. So it only takes that one little idea and then getting everybody enthused, having some skin in the game, making it a little competitive, and you can take off and make a world of difference.
Yeah, I love the Clack Challenge idea. We did that actually too. So I love that you had a $5,000 number though. That's fantastic. I think for me, it's more of a longevity pitch, right? Like, because if I can get it into the homeowner leader budgets, they're the ones that are supposed to be paying for it. I'm not supposed to be running multiple events a year and raffles and all these other things to help support it, right? The ultimate goal is that they understand what Phoebe and National is doing because, like Leslie said, it's a lot. They're doing a lot, and our Clack advocate in California is working his butt off, and because we're very litigious here, and so but like that's the end goal, and like how do we do that? Because once it's built into the budget, it's less likely to come out of the budget because most people just like glance at the yearly budget and it's like $250 cost for some of these associations up here. So yeah, because if I do a Clack Challenge every year, I have to keep doing that Clack Challenge every year and managing it and doing the marketing for it and keeping people enthused. And, there's only so much gas in the tank. So, yeah.
That is, building it into the budget really is like the top goal that most of these states have with the dollar a door campaign. It's a tougher ask, obviously asking a community to continue it year to year, but we do see it happen on occasion. So again, to your point, that's would be best case scenario with the dollar a door campaign. And then they don't even think about it again, and it's in their budget. So the manager or the attorney won't have to pitch it anymore.
And we've had success with like a manager or an attorney pitching it to the community and then just keeping it in their budget. We have a couple of HOAs that are like $1,500, $1,000 a year. They just renew it because they understand it. But like it's getting to that point. Like I've offered to go to offered to go to board meetings to like say what's going on. But like I think you're right. I think it needs to come from the LAC. I think they need to. But anyway, rant over.
Anybody else want to talk about what they're doing or have any questions for Phoebe or Lula? All right. Well, Phoebe, Lula, thank you so much for joining us today. Again, if you guys have any questions, if you need any additional information, you can't find anything on the website. Again, we have tons of information on our website. So please make sure that you're linking to our advocacy pages, that you're using those resources again throughout the year whenever you need to, whether it's in your newsletters, your magazines, to help promote certain things. So again, thank you both for joining us today. And thank you everybody for coming. And we will see you guys again soon.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, please contact a member of the Chapter Relations team or email chapterlearning@caionline.org.